Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Memo Creative Festival podcast, where we discuss big ideas around how creativity and culture shapes the way we live, work, and connect. I'm one of your hosts, Taylor Pfeifer, and I'm here with my co-host, Brooke Hoffos. Today, we are interviewing the one and only Blair French. So Blair is a strategic provocateur with 15 plus years in branding and marketing. And he is currently the Chief Growth Officer at LMNO. He currently leads business development and strategy, building high performance teams and driving innovation. He has a big passion for sustainability and purpose driven marketing. And Blair brings a sharp focus into the E in ESG. And he helps brands create meaningful and different brands for a whole bunch of different verticals and industries that he works with. So, welcome to the show, Blair.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
We're super excited to have you on. We know that you've had a very long and dynamic career so far, and I'm just wondering if you can share a bit about where you started, and how you ended up here at LMNO as the Chief Growth Officer.
Yeah, I know. I always say 15 plus because I don't like to date myself too much because it's like approaching over
Mm.
20 now.
You look good. You look
Yeah, I
good.
know. It's all the work that's been
Can't tell. You can't tell.
You know what? I think to answer this question is where it all began was in my small town of Hope, BC, where I grew up. And I think growing up in a small town had a lot of perks with regards to everyone knew everyone,
hmm
but I always wanted and craved something more. And I think that craving was for things like travel and learning and meeting new people. And really, that's sort of been the foundation of my career. I've never been afraid to take on a new role, a new responsibility, dive into understanding a new industry, a new technology. And I think those rooted desires of knowing that there was more out there than my small town has really been the foundation of my whole career. And as Taylor mentioned kind of in the intro, I've had the opportunity to work in so many different industries and verticals. And what I've really loved and what's really progressed my career is taking the best things from each of those industries that work well and going, can I adapt those for another client? Can I adapt those for another industry? And that's really kind of what's gotten me here today working at LMNO as the CGO because I get to work on so many different clients and I can be a bit of a chameleon and really help them achieve what their objectives are and understanding what their challenges are and seeing ways that our agency can help them.
Mm.
That's
Would
great.
Yeah, I'm curious, would you be able to dive into maybe one of those early on experiences just to maybe help someone who's just starting off in this industry where they're like, where do I go? Or like, what's the best place to work? Or can it be anywhere? Could it be in the back of, like a kitchen cooking or, maybe you're pulling pints. I know you're working at
Yeah.
a pub or something,
Yeah.
but like yeah,
Could use a beer right now.
I know, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
curious if you can expand maybe on one of those experiences that you've had so far.
Yeah, I think the experiences for me was starting work at a young age in the restaurant business.
Mm,
I worked my way and it helped me pay for my schooling, starting out as a dishwasher in our one of our tourist restaurants in my town, to then moving up to being a line cook and then helping as a chef. And then I went front of house where I worked as a bartender and server. And I think what the service industry and the restaurant industry teaches you. It teaches you what hard work actually is. It teaches you how to work with a variety of different people and personalities, as well as guests and people that are kind of coming to the restaurant. And it also teaches you a bit of patience and to not take things too personally. Because I think when you're dealing with people and their food,
yeah.
they're very quick to get very angry. And, it's those kind of moments where that can make or break you. And learning that patience and learning to take things not personally, is so crucial.
Mm,
And I think with regards to like someone starting out in their early in their career, whether it's maybe more kind of related to the marketing industry is, I always think a great place to start is agency. I think an agency like LMNO or any of the great ones in Saskatchewan or across Canada, it gives you so much exposure to so many different things early in your career. And whether or not you choose to live your life moving up within an agency or jump to client side, it really gives you such a great foundation. And I think early in your career, hard work pays dividends. If you put your head down and you're open and you're trying to expose yourself and are asking to be exposed to so many different things, that is the best place to start. Your early years are about exploration. Your early years should be about trying and pushing yourself into all different ways. That should be fun.
Mm.
Don't think working here for a year, here for 2 years, a year, 6 months, whatever. Those short-lived stints are no longer a negative,
Hmm.
particularly in the industry of marketing and creativity.
100%. And I think also being younger, I think there's a sense of being naive to things in a good way.
Mhm.
You're you kind of just naturally can take those risks or make, those changes. So I think that's great advice.
I
Try
think that
different things, right?
I think the world has changed so much where I think, I'm a little bit older and there is that kind of roadmap that people thought that they needed to do in order to be perceived as successful in life. It's like you've you finish high school, you go to university, you get your job, you work in that job for 25 years because you're striving for retirement. That kind of ideology for me is just out the window now. I'm looking for people who have just that breadth of experience, that excitement, that drive to learn more and not being afraid to take risks and embrace those risks and really enjoy them. Because you're going to just come out on the other end so much happier and probably in a role that you're really excited to be in.
That's really interesting you say that, and I have the exact same sort of philosophy. Even when it comes to like hiring people or looking for new people to bring into our company at LMNO, like the degree does not matter. That's just a piece of paper. Like it's more about what have you done, what have you experienced? Are you a nice person? Do you have the soft skills to be able to
Yeah.
have meaningful and interesting conversations with your colleagues, your clients? Are you culturally relevant? Are you tapped in? Like
Mm.
there's all these different sort of metrics that for us are just so much more important than just going to get that college degree. So,
You
um,
you nailed it, Taylor. I think I just want to touch base on that one thing. I was talking to my husband last night, and we have an 8-year-old, and we were talking about what does the future of work look like for
Mm.
him. And I think so much it's going to be supported, and a lot of the tools out there will start to take away some of the mundane work that we do, some of the stuff that's very like mechanical and operational.
Mm.
Where I think the future is going and what we should be looking for, training for, developing in our teams, whether at LMNO or at any company, are those soft skills, those abilities of human interaction, empathy, that whole idea of being kind. That to me is what companies should be hiring for now or going, can this person do that? Because a lot of those kind of more operational type roles, yes, they'll need people to support them, but the heavy lifting is going to be done by things like AI and
Mm.
technology. But those soft skills are going to be so much more valuable. And I think it's the UN Economic Forum said it's probably one of the top things that you should be hiring for
Hmm. It's
is those
interesting.
soft skills. So I'm so happy that you kind of highlighted that.
Mm.
I just want to bring it back to you as Blair French for a second, because earlier you were just talking about the importance of hard work. And
Mhm.
I couldn't agree with you more on that point either. I think that's a tremendous thing that maybe young people are overlooking, is just that, especially with AI and people using AI to do their jobs a little bit more quickly than they used to. We're sort of foregoing this notion that you need to just like put some elbow grease into something. Sometimes you just have to will something into existence and just with brute force, like make that thing happen. And you've done that over your whole career, Blair, and you've done that not just prior, but especially in your role as chief growth officer at LMNO. You've done a lot of great things. You've had a lot of impact on the things, not just with what we've been doing as LMNO, but with your team and the people you interact with our clients. I'm just wondering if you could, for our listeners, explain what a chief growth officer is and sort of what a day-to-day, what a day in the life of Blair French looks like as
Oh
the
my
chief
God.
growth officer at LMNO. We're all curious.
Yeah, I wish I had an easy answer for that, what a day in the life is, because I feel like in my role, every day is completely different.
Mm,
Every day is a little bit chaotic. Every, thing that I'm working on, it just changes so much day to day. And I think that's the environment I thrive in. I thrive in, for lack of a better word, that chaos. And
hmm.
now this is good chaos, not like bad chaos.
Yeah.
And so I wish I could explain that. But, for me, if I had to sum it up, there's twofold. One, there's the work that I work on with the teams at LMNO and our clients. And really, that is a supportive role. That role is to ensure that the teams and the people who are on my teams and we're all collaborating with have everything that they need to do their jobs to the best of their ability. Now, that could be pulling me into client meetings and strategy sessions, working with the clients directly. That could be them popping into my office for a little bit of a rapid fire to bounce some ideas off or some of their challenges. And it really is that leveraging all of my experience to support them. The
Mm,
other kind of part of my role is more the kind of progressing the agency. Now, that could be with regards to new business development, that could be taking the agency in a new direction with regards
mm,
to what we provide with regards to services. It could be working with the partnership team and the C-suite about, hiring, recruitment, the vision of the company. What are we wanting to achieve in the next 5, 10 years? So it's kind of those are my two kind of
mm.
main roles and responsibilities, the support
Nice.
role and a little bit more of that visionary role to kind of keep the agency at the top of our game, and doing the best work that we could possibly do within Canada, the US, and some of our international work.
Mm, yeah. And LMNO has evolved quite a lot in the last few years, which is really interesting and largely due to some big changes that you helped spearhead with your vision. And I'm just curious if you can share some of those things with us.
Yeah, and I think going back, this is probably the area that I am most passionate about. And I think that's something you really need to find in any role that you work in is that passion. Um, I think one of the struggles for any agency is there's a lot of us. There's a lot of different agencies in Canada. Some are hyper specialized in certain things, some are full service. And I think one of those challenges is what makes one agency different from another. We all kind of do the same thing. We just say it differently. And a lot of it's rooted in our relationships with our clients and long-standing relationships. But I was trying to think of, or always had it in the back of my head, is what is it that LMNO can do that really makes us stand out? What is that hook, for lack of a better word? What is that differentiator? What might bring some more meaning or purpose to our organization that our teams can rally behind, but also our clients and potential clients are interested in it? And I kind of had a bit of a wake up call when I went to a conference, and I know, Brooke, you've had the opportunity to attend it as well, C2 in Montreal. And that's
Hmm.
why I love these creative business, these hybrid events like Memo and C2 and the Gathering. Like, you just really, the energy there is quite exciting. And
Hmm.
I was sitting there listening to David Suzuki speak, and he spoke about, climate issues and concerns, and he brought to the attention a small town near my small town in BC that went up in a forest fire. And that just kind of hit me pretty hard, right? Because it was so close to home. Here's one of my idols growing up, being from BC, speaking
Hmm.
about climate change. And then he flipped it to say, and marketing and marketers are a large contributor to some of the environmental issues that we're experiencing. The fact that digital marketing creates a large number of carbon emissions because of the energy it takes to produce these digital campaigns.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there going, huh. So we have one of the kind of premier people in environmentalism talking about this. I have had a long career, hopefully still many more years to come, have not heard much about this in our industry.
Mm.
It just kind of was that moment where I'm like, there's something there. And I thought intrinsically, people would be passionate or interested or want to align with an organization that was doing more things in the sustainable space, but related to our expertise marketing.
Mm.
So it kind of triggered me to go, okay, how do we actually take this information and create it into a meaningful shift for LMNO? And could LMNO actually make that shift to
Mm-hmm.
become a marketing agency or a creative agency that focused on sustainable principles?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the biggest shift that's occurred, is that we're in that progression as we speak.
Right. And in regards to sustainable development, I think there's a lot of, buzz around the green word. How does it go beyond just being green? Like,
Yeah.
and how can we get people on board to see that as something that they can care about? I mean, you were able to listen to a speaker, like you said, that hit close to home with the story that he told. But how can we get people that don't have those experiences to go to conferences, for example, to care about this sustainable development in their own life?
The first thing I had to do was, like, I had to go back to school. So I
Mm.
actually went back to school to get some sort of credentials in sustainable development. And actually, it was more so about helping me wrap my head around this very complex topic of sustainable development.
Mm.
Because it's
Yeah.
not easy. It is
Yeah.
overwhelming. Once you go down that rabbit hole, it never ends. And I think, Taylor, we've had great conversations about that.
And for our listeners, Blair, could you just describe what sustainable development actually is? Like what
Mm.
is sustainable development?
Yeah, great question. Because if I had a great definition, I'd love to share it
Yeah.
because of how complex it is. But I would say, in the simplest form, it's companies doing business for good. And that good aspect is broken up into three components. You're focused on people. So is your business supporting, developing, growing people in the best possible way? One of the ways to look at it is, do you pay a livable wage for the
Hmm.
region that you are operating your business in? That's one aspect. At LMNO, what are we doing to build our culture at LMNO? We did a river cleanup because Saskatoon, if you come to Memo, you'll see the beautiful city of Saskatoon.
We're
If you're
second and
not
third.
from
Come
here,
to Memo.
we did a river cleanup to make sure, and that's really great for people because it's good for mental health. We're outside, we're doing an activity, and we're doing something good for the world. Two, the other side, which is the easiest part to understand, is the planet side. So is our business running in a way that it's good for the planet? At LMNO, we're a net zero agency. So we calculate our corporate carbon emissions, we try to reduce them the best we can, and then we offset what we can. So we're proud to say that we're carbon neutral, which is great for the planet. And then there's people, planet, and profit. So is your business doing everything it can and governing as a business and still being profitable, but profitable in a good way, not at the expense of the people, not at the expense of the planet. So it's businesses doing business for good, and they're focused on
Yep.
people, planet, and profit. That
So,
would
so
probably
Hmm.
be the
So,
easiest.
so when we hear sustainability, it's not just the environment. It's
No.
environment, it's economic, and it's social. It's
Yeah.
those three things.
Yeah. And I think the environmental aspect of it is the easiest for people to understand, right? It is the one that is out there more. It's so visual. people are impacted by it every day. And I think that's why it's okay if people hone in on that aspect. But what I really want them to understand is it is bigger than that. And Taylor, you said it best. It's so much more than planting trees, for lack of a better phrase.
100%. Do you think that's potentially the biggest misunderstanding about sustainable development, that it is just only environmental? Do you feel like
Yeah,
in the space that's what people are mostly thinking, or have you seen or heard of anything else that you think people misunderstand about sustainability in general?
I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about sustainability and sustainable development. And I think we're kind of in a little bit of a wild west right now where people are still trying to figure it out. We're trying to find the best ways to understand it, promote it, and create action from the information that's out there. And I think that's why, having agencies like LMNO really take a stance and go, okay, we realize perfection isn't possible, but we are going to work and progress to what we think our clients need and bring value to our clients and make it easier for them to comprehend this idea of sustainable development and how they can easily bring in some new practices to make it better, like so that they're doing business for good.
Yeah,
That's key.
totally. What are some of those easy wins that are not just checking off a box, but you're, authentically integrating sustainability into your growth strategy
This is the
as a
part I,
business?
yeah, this is the part I love about my job is that when you talk about those things, I love when I meet with a client or we've had meetings at LMNO where we start to look at our our business or a client's business. And before we go in to go, oh, these are all the things that you're doing wrong, and these are all the things you need to change. And that's where people go. They either get overwhelmed, they're like, oh my God, why did I even start down this path? Or they just see dollar signs. Another misconception is being sustainable
Mm,
means it's more costly to do business.
that's great.
Yeah. But however, what I always like to start with is uncovering all the good that they're already doing. And I remember I sat down with a client and she came to me and she's like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. We're a publicly traded company. We have to report on our, environmental, social, and governance. It's part of our, and I'm now responsible as the VP of marketing to do this. And I said, okay, let's break this down a little bit.
Hmm.
Your product intrinsically helps reduce carbon emissions by doing these things. You have a really great safety program. You have a really great XYZ. And you kind of see this light bulb go off in their
Hmm.
brain going, wow, actually, this doesn't need to be that complicated. This
Mm,
doesn't need to be that hard because we're already doing incredible stuff. They're just not capturing it in the framework or the way that sustainability has been kind of broadcasted out there.
mm,
And that to me is the really cool thing about what I get to do. I get to help clients uncover all of those really cool things that they are doing. And number one, celebrate that.
yeah.
And two, go, how do we make that even better or amplify
Mm.
that? Even before we go into what else could they be doing.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, yeah, that's great because I think leading with a positive, stand first allows whoever you're working with to feel more receptive to change. So I
Mm.
love that approach. It's such a simple thing to do. So it's great to hear that you're able to see some wins approaching that way with different clients.
Well, even like, I think it's important, Blair, like I was just listening to you talk about that. And in that
Mm.
situation, you sort of came in as this third party. But I think that's an important dynamic because sometimes clients can't see what's in front of them. So it
Yeah.
takes somebody like you to kind of come in with a 40,000-foot view and just kind of see everything all at the same time and be like,
Mhm.
how about this? How about that? How about this?
Mm.
And then you can take those things and formalize them in the form of a report or put them into the sustainable development goals that the UN has, or like talk about them in a really interesting way, which ends up allowing that brand or that company to tell their story, which connects to the brand. I love that.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I like just seeing, because sustainability, greenwashing, it's there's some crazy headlines out there right now, and you see the rollbacks in the States, you see the European Union trying to roll back certain things, and it's such a tense topic. So I
Hmm.
love when I talk to clients and I can help you can just see their shoulders relax a
Hmm.
little bit. And they're like, okay, this isn't something that has to be a burden,
Mhm.
doesn't have to be overwhelming. And that to me is the biggest reward in my job. And I think that's very indicative of the marketing agency in general is our job is to make our clients' lives easier and uncover things that they maybe didn't see before. Because we're not embedded in their company, their culture, their industry. That is the one thing that agencies need to be excelling at. That is the best joy that I get to have when I see the client just you can see it in their
Hmm.
face, you can see it in their body language going, oh, okay, I'm feeling better about this. I'm really happy with where things are going, or I'm really happy that we are doing good. Because then it
Hmm.
makes them feel good and it will probably make them want to do even more good.
Well, and that kind of extends into LMNO's sort of mantra lately, or mission of
Yeah.
finding the hidden potential within every one of our clients or circumstances that they're in. So I love that. I think sustainable development and sustainability and sustainable marketing, and those are all sort of mouthful words when you start to say them and put that all together, all meaningful things, but it happens organically.
Mhm.
And as you mentioned, a lot of these brands or businesses already are doing a lot of these things. It's just kind of like heating them up or drawing attention to those areas so that they can double down and just do more good.
Mhm.
Because I don't think that there's a lot of companies out there that are like going out there being like, I'm going to do business for bad, right?
No.
Right? Like
Yeah.
that's not the benchmark. But there are brands though that maybe aren't doing the best to their
Hmm.
abilities, and that could be something that they could fix. Do you have any examples of that or stories that you could tell
Well,
or
well,
identifications that you could have within a brand that has recently come across your desk?
yeah. Well, you're seeing it. I think the easiest one to kind of pick industry to pick on is the fashion industry, the clothing, the garment industry. And like you are seeing, I think it was even Chanel launched a sustainable fabric and they're investing in sustainable fabrics. And
Oh,
I
that's
think
good.
yeah, and so I think it takes a few of these big names and big players to really make a shift. That being said, startups and entrepreneurial, more style businesses are doing really great. I think a lot of people laugh because obviously I have one brand that I am a diehard supporter of. Out of Victoria, BC, called Anian. And what I just love about them is they're unapologetically sustainable. They're like, we are going to take old fabric, melt it down, treat it the way we need to treat it, recreate it into fabric, and
Fantastic.
create phenomenal clothing. Even to the point that their buttons are made from oyster traps that are
Oh,
made out
that's
of
cool.
plastic, which would normally go to the landfill. But what I want to talk about it is when you look at the cost of clothing, and we're talking mid-range, maybe to some people it would be a bit more on the high range of cost, is it
Hmm.
is no different than buying a Carhartt shirt or a Hugo Boss dress shirt. Like their price points, I find very reasonable, but it's the quality of what they're doing. And then it's just that idea of sustainability is embedded in their ethos. Um, so I am a firm believer that even if sustainability isn't embedded within your organization, it can be, which I think
Hmm.
a lot of people are like, oh, they're just putting it in there because they have to, or it looks good, or it's going to help their brand reputation. I'm like, no, I think that's actually a really great thing that if a company is trying to do that. But what
Hmm.
I think that's really cool is with new companies like Anian, it's just part of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
They don't
Mm-hmm.
they don't even you don't see much of it in their marketing. Now they talk about it, but they're not like, we're a sustainable brand. It's no, this is how we do business.
Just the way they are.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Is there any, uh, besides just fashion and maybe like product design companies, is there any marketing agencies that are also kind of going down this sustainable development route that you've seen that you feel are kind of paving that way within
Yeah.
Canada or outside?
I think, the ones that are probably progressing in this area more would be out of the EU, the
Mm,
European Union, and they kind of were who I looked to when we were doing our own research like research into like, is this something LMNO should explore? Is it viable? And as it comes to Canada and North America, I am always surprised by when clients are like, we didn't even have this on our radar.
mm,
We didn't know our digital marketing was such a bad contributor
yeah.
to carbon emissions. We didn't know that we could do video shoots in a more sustainable way. Um, but you raise a really good point, Brooke, is that I think it's easy for a lot of companies to say they do this.
Hmm.
But what I've really struggled with is what is the back, have they walked the walk?
Hmm.
So this process, this transition for LMNO has been almost 3 years. So our CFO has been integral to this as well as the partnership group, but we have done the walking. We have first done it for our agency. We became a B Corp, which is a very rigorous accreditation to become a B Corp, which means you're in essence doing business for good. We became a net zero challenger with the federal government, the first agency to do so in Canada. We now have the technology to measure our clients' carbon emissions for all of their marketing initiatives. So the first thing is to measure, then it's to work with them to produce,
Hmm.
right? We need that benchmark. So we have
Mm,
done 3 years of climbing a mountain. Now we're not
hmm.
even at the top of the mountain. The mountain will never end. It's like a stair climber, that
Yeah.
horrible thing at the gym.
Oh my
Just never
goodness.
ends. You just keep climbing.
Some people like
Um,
that.
but no, I know it's like,
Only you,
oh
Taylor.
yeah.
Maybe.
But
I gotta lose some weight.
I think that's the thing is we did the hard work because I never wanted a potential client or client go, well, what did you do to do better in
Yeah,
this?
and not to play devil's advocate, but there's been a lot of buzz around B Corp certification, and a lot of companies actually not even getting recertified because they feel like
Hmm.
perhaps the standards are maybe too low. I'm curious your take on that at all, and if you feel having being B Corp is a certification that we should be striving to get.
Yeah, I think what I like about certifications in general, like, and there's ones for like the hotel industry, there's ones for mining and oil and gas, and I think there's a variety of different certifications. What I like about them is it holds businesses accountable to be transparent about what they're doing. Now, do certifications ebb and flow like any business or industry? Yes, but I don't necessarily look at it as the B Corp brand and whether or not we should align with it. It's
Mm,
what's behind that we have been required to do as an agency to become certified. And I think that's what's important is it holds us accountable because we have to recertify. Now, do I wish it was cheaper to recertify? 100%. Are there other options that I would maybe explore down the road? And maybe down the road, because it has been such a part of our ethos and we're working with more and more clients in the sustainability space, do we need a certification if we're constantly setting out our own reports? Maybe. But
mm,
I do think that certification adds credibility and holds these businesses accountable to what they say they're doing. And is there anything wrong with that? Not at all.
hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's a really good point. And And not just accountability to themselves, but I think to their audiences, to their consumers, to the people who are like using that product or that service or whatever that thing might be. Um, would you
And
say like, go ahead,
oh,
Blair,
I was
sorry.
gonna say, Taylor, because you nailed it with the consumers. Consumers are smarter than ever. And they are
Yeah.
wanting brands that follow sustainability practices. They want to know where the products are being made, how they're being made. And like that's the one thing is like where we saw the opportunity at LMNO was we saw audiences expecting this.
Mm.
Yeah.
And if
So
you're not, yeah.
how do you think like we should respond to that? Like, so like we're seeing the audience and the market sort of demand this level of accountability from brands. Like, what do you do with that? What do you do with that information? What's a meaningful change that a company could do to just meet that need, I guess, or that shift that's happening right now, for that level of transparency that consumers are wanting with that brand? How do they meet that need?
Yeah, I would almost say it shouldn't be dependent on the audience. It's first the company should do it because they want to do it,
Mm.
right? And then it's going that, normally it's like as marketers, we think audience, audience, audience. Whereas I think sustainability needs to be intrinsic to the business or the company first. Because if you're not making those internal changes internally, there's no point communicating anything. It's just lip service. And that to me is probably the most important aspect of it is if you are not wanting to make that shift within your organization, within your business first, then I would say you're not ready to make this shift.
Okay.
Yeah.
What if it's dictated by your customer? The customer is wanting it, and then therefore you're like, I want to make the shift internally
Still
because
start
the customer.
internally. Yeah,
Mm.
still start internally and do the homework and do the accreditations and do your impact report where you kind of open the curtains to your business, and then go forward with the audiences and informing them, but in a very factual way of this is your stance and this is what you're doing and this is what you've achieved and what you're hoping to achieve.
Mm.
But it's
But for
still
really complicated businesses, like give the shareholders what they want, more profits,
Mm.
and there's going to be those people shaking their fists, being like, we don't care about the environment, we don't care about culture, we just want more profits and line our genes with more money. How do
but
you, how do you,
that's why you have beautiful organizations like Unilever that have disproved the fact that sustainable following these principles and practices actually increase profits, increase retention rates of people because they want to work for these organizations. I think going back to what you said earlier, Brooke, about some of the challenges is one of them is trying to showcase that being sustainable as a business does not need to cost more. Now,
Mhm.
is there an investment? 100%, but there's an investment in anything
And
that you do
anything. Yeah.
in business.
so this
Um,
this isn't just a feel good thing though, is what you're saying. You
no,
you can have a
no,
conscience, but you can still have capitalism. You can still make money while you're doing
100%.
this. And in fact, this might make you more money in the end,
Mhm.
potentially.
I'm a chief growth officer. My responsibility is growth. Now,
Mhm.
when I look at growth, I think of people growth and development, and I think of business growth. And part of business growth is revenue, because if I increase revenue, we can take that revenue to then invest back into the business or pockets. Everyone wants a salary, right? Everyone wants maybe a bonus, but it's not an and or, right? Like it's you can't if you focus on sustainability, you're preventing profits or taking away from revenue or profit. No, that's what people are getting at. If you invest in this, it will pay off in dividends. And it's been proven again and again and again. So I think it's just with anything that's such a big shift and a dynamic shift, people are skeptical, they're slow to come on board. Now, sustainability is a pendulum. 5 years ago was like sustainability, everything, everything, everything. I think we've come
Mhm.
back to the medium a little bit. People are like, okay, how do we actually make this work?
Mhm.
Right? It's no longer a buzzword. It is viable, but how do we actually do this in a way that has meaning and impact, both across all of those aspects: people, planet, profit.
Hmm. Yeah, and like you said, some people are slow to make change, perhaps. Is there anything that you could maybe like wave a wand at to change one thing about the marketing industry? Maybe it's like make a quicker decision or, make that leap or
Yeah.
take that risk or take that investment in your own business. Is there anything you kind of see?
There's no wand. I think
Okay.
what it is it's just a matter of grinding it out.
Mm.
The squeaky wheel, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's what a few champions or more, we need more champions that are just living and breathing this and realizing that it can be done and that change can be done in a way that is going to really help a business grow. I wish there was a wand, but I think this is one of the things where it is so complex of a topic and really affects all aspects of a business, not just marketing. Now, I specialize in sustainable marketing. I do not, I'm not a supply chain expert. I am not,
Mhm.
a production expert. And so it's the whole, if anything, I just would love all verticals of a business, whether it's HR, production, supply chain, marketing, etc. I just wish they would have champions across all of those so that they could work together in a more cohesive way. Um, Often it falls onto marketing, but really the biggest impact is not marketing. It's the other aspects of a business.
So sustainable development affects businesses of all size, correct? Like if I have a local lemonade stand or if I am in charge of a conglomerate multinational company with multiple channels and distribution networks, this applies to small business, medium business, and large business, correct?
100%.
So if I had a lemonade stand or like a smaller business, let's say I started a business and I had some success over the last couple of years, and now I want to get serious about turning the dials towards sustainability,
Mm.
what would my first step sort of look like? Like what should I do? What's the easy sort of win that I can do first? What's the first step, I guess, towards sustainable development?
I think the first thing to do is celebrate what you or discover what you're doing well now and celebrate that. So if it's a lemonade stand, did you repurpose something from your garage or from old wood to build the lemonade stand and
That's a great idea.
upcycle? Pardon?
That's a great idea.
That's what
Yeah,
Taylor's doing that this weekend.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
what I'm doing. I'm getting ideas for what I'm doing this weekend. So
Getting
thank you.
getting a little bit more complex. Where were your lemons sourced from? Do you know what I mean? Which regions of the world do they provide fair payment to the farmers that are producing those lemons? Are you buying the lemons from a co-op versus a big giant Costco? Now, trust me, I'm a Costco fan, right? But it's finding that happy medium, and
Mm.
that's where it's like, I think, leave the overcomplication to people that really work in this space.
Mhm.
Where you can enjoy and celebrate is finding those small wins that you're already doing. Actually, it's so funny that you brought up a lemonade stand, and I got to tell this story because I was in Canmore, so I split my time, was in Saskatoon, now I split my time between Canmore. In true Canmore, very mountain town, very, I might get shot for this one, granola. Uh, but there was a lemonade stand. And I took Ollie to the lemonade stand and I was like, oh, Ollie would like a lemonade. Ollie, give her your money. And she's like, is it for here or to go? This girl had
Oh.
reusable cups that were old, like teacups and
Amazing.
old coffee mugs, rather than giving the plastic to go cup. That to me is
Mm.
showing that the idea, whether or not they know that this is about sustainability, our younger generations are already thinking that way. Like, how cool is it? And she
Mm.
had a whole wash station set up to like wash those cups and make sure they were all done. But it's so funny when you brought up lemonade stand and sustainability. I was like, this kid has already created a sustainable lemonade stand because she's trying to prevent plastic, more unneeded plastics going into the environment. Like mind
100%.
blowing.
Now I
Yeah.
feel bad for all the styrofoam I used as a kid when I would make my
I know, but different times,
different
right? Like,
times. Yeah,
it
and
just
for sure, we're
shows,
equipped. Yep.
yeah, it shows the generational shifts. These kids, like, love
Yeah.
her or hate her, Greta Thunberg, you know what I mean? Like, there's a younger demographic that are just already light years away of these kind of older businesses. And that's
100%.
really promising and exciting to see.
Well, and I love the analogy of a lemonade stand. And I mean, in that context, it was literal. She literally had a
Yeah,
lemonade stand.
yeah,
But like as an analogy though, because I think a lot of people when they hear sustainable development, it feels like that could be a really serious or complex thing.
yeah,
And it really doesn't need to be. It
yeah,
starts with just maybe having an option for reusable cups in your restaurant or making a small change where, you're not adding to more waste
yeah.
down the line in your supply chain or something like that, and it's about creating a culture where people can participate and in this environment where they can make those small tweaks for themselves too in their own lives, and now they feel empowered to do it.
I, and even within the business sense of every day, I think sustainability can be brought into everyday aspects of our work and also our personal life. Some people are further along in the personal. And it's just simple things. I read a crazy stat that if in the UK, if everyone did one less thank you email per day, the amount of like carbon emissions that would be removed equated to like a couple hundred flights between London and I can't remember. I think it was, and I was just like, how many times do you just flippantly send an email saying, yeah, thanks, got it? Is that email needed? Do you know what I mean?
Mm,
The other thing was like newsletters. Like, as a marketer, I subscribe to way too many newsletters. And then I read stats about the amount, if you're not actually reading that newsletter, unsubscribe because the amount of energy that it takes for you to get that newsletter and load it is crazy if you're not reading it. So there's just like really even like we talk about the small wins.
mm.
There's so many small wins, and you got to find the small wins that are relevant to your business and that are going to connect with the people that work at your business.
Mm.
Yeah.
Is there any small wins in like your personal life in your day-to-day routine, Blair? I know you've mentioned you split your time between, Saskatoon right now and
Mm.
Canmore. Is there anything that you're doing in Canmore that maybe you're perhaps not doing in Saskatoon or living different routines in both locations?
Yeah, one of the things is water is an issue in Canmore, so we actually plant our lawn is clover.
Hmm.
Clover is
Cool.
Yeah, clover takes less water. You don't need to water it. It's very hardy. And also it produces a flower, so it's great for the pollinators.
Any four-leaf clovers?
Haven't found any, but
Dang,
I
we
don't
need we
need
need
to
the luck.
actually dig through it.
Blair doesn't need luck, he makes his own luck. You
Yeah,
heard it here, folks.
I wish. I was like, what are the lottery numbers? Then I can really just focus on all of this sustainability stuff. We also planted local flowers that are local to the Rocky Mountains.
Hmm.
I have shifted my clothing to only purchase from sustainable brands. And I don't mean always like upcycling like Anian, but I really do invest more in clothing that follows the same values that I do. I was really bad at coffee cups and water bottles, so I'm trying to be a bit more cognizant of doing that. And that's been around for ages, but even Tupperware, I lean towards buying glass ones versus the plastic ones that are more eventually they kind of become gross and you throw
Yeah,
them out.
microplastics and all that.
Yeah, in Canmore we don't drive. Do you know what I mean? And I
Mm-hmm.
think people
Mm-hmm.
are realizing, that's if a lot of people make those shifts, that's where it's like one person making a shift can feel daunting, right? It's like, why? People are like, why would I vote? Because it's only one vote. It's not going to make a change. I'm like, yes, that's not the point though. It's the masses. If we have 50 people making a change, then you start to see a bigger impact,
Yeah.
right? And I think, yeah,
For sure. And it's not just like that environmental impact where you're planting the flowers and you have the clover grass. It's like your health, like longevity and living a sustainable life physically, is a
we're
nice way of looking at it too.
And I always say there are constant reminders of why this is important.
Mm.
I look at what's going on in northern Saskatchewan right now with the fires, and I know, Taylor, you were impacted at one point. I look at Jasper in the Rocky Mountains. I look at the town near where I grew up, Lytton. We are constantly reminded. Now, that's the environmental factor, but even from a people factor with the wars and the challenges going on economically around the world right now, there are constant reminders to us, whether or not we choose to embrace them or ignore them, as to why this topic of sustainable development is so important. And often, until you are directly impacted, like for me, Lytton, or maybe Taylor, your experience with the fire in northern Saskatchewan, I find that's usually when people have that bit more of a wake-up call. But until they're really directly impacted, they kind of go, well, what can I do? I can't really make change in that. I can't affect what's going on in the world. Whereas I say, hey, just using the statement, this is the status quo now, this is kind of
Hmm.
what we should be expecting, that is the wrong attitude to have and the worst attitude to have.
Yep, absolutely. And I think it's kind of a full circle moment from the talk that you attended at C2 and having that personal impact. I think until that happens, then that's what can light a fire under your butt and really make a change. But thank you. I just want to say thank you so much for providing all the knowledge that you have around sustainable development. I know we can dive a lot deeper into that. But I just wanted to ask you a closing question that we're asking everyone that comes on the Memo podcast. And that is, if you could write a memo to a younger version of yourself, Blair, what would you say?
Oh, it's such an interesting question. And I think, because I've really kind of celebrated, aced, my whole journey to this point. I think the one thing I would probably say is to don't give a, I was gonna swear. I guess I could swear.
You can
My,
swear.
yeah, like don't give a fuck what
Shit.
people think about you. Do you know what I mean? Not everyone's gonna like you. Not everyone's gonna be your best friend. But if you're your true, authentic self, that is what's gonna shine through. And I think sometimes I, in my younger years, tried to adapt and tried to change for to appease the people I was with or worked for. And I think, you just need to be unapologetically yourself. And that will be the best thing you can do for your mental health, for your career, for your life. And I think that's maybe the one thing I would say, because I'm pretty happy with my life.
Love that.
That's awesome. That's some great advice. Thank you for dropping that wisdom bomb. And
Awesome.
just want to echo what Brooke said about just all the great stuff you said today on this podcast. We could definitely do a deeper dive into sustainable development and sustainability as a whole. Luckily, you can come to Memo Festival October 2nd and 3rd and hear
Woo-hoo.
Blair speak a little bit more about what it means to add sustainability to your life and how
Yeah.
that might increase your circumstance or where you're at in your business or any of those great things. So October 2nd and 3rd, Memo Fest, Blair's a speaker. Come on out. I have to do the shameless plug, right? But
No,
um,
I will help you with the shameless plugs. I'm excited for Memo. I'm excited to speak. I'm also excited about all the incredible speakers and workshops that Memo Fest is bringing to Saskatoon.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time here today. This was excellent. And we will see you in October.
Take care.
All
Bye.
right.
Thank you.
Bye.